Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have a very clear example of absolute denial coming out from the BBC. Now, they're talking about Doctor Who specifically, but they're also mentioning just in general the claims that the BBC is ultra woke, and they're trying to say that they don't feed viewers woke material. They're trying to say that there's no woke bias, and they're also trying to say that all claims and all findings are cherry-picked or highlighting genuine mistakes. Yes, because everything that's woke apparently is a mistake. This article here comes to us from Bounding Into Comics, and again, with a headline that reads, BBC denies report that it feeds viewers a steady diet of woke bias and claims findings are cherry-picked or highlighting genuine mistakes. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very obvious that the BBC is in absolute denial. They don't want to admit what they're doing, just like they never do in Hollywood, and this is no different. So let's get into this article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. So it says it may have been a Merry Christmas holiday for many, but not so much for the BBC, as a UK-based public broadcaster has found themselves sour after a new analytical report claimed that their content from Waterloo Road to Doctor Who is feeding viewers a steady diet of woke bias. Now, I've spoken to a lot of people that consume content from the BBC, and a lot of them will tell you that it's basically woke nonsense, and Doctor Who is probably the most recent example of just how far the BBC is willing to go, where they're trying to basically lambast David Tennant's doctor and calling him a male-presenting doctor who doesn't understand the world and pronouns or anything like that simply because he's male-presenting. It's that kind of wokeness that people are tired about, and the BBC doesn't want to admit to doing it, and they never will, ladies and gentlemen. Let's be very clear. The BBC, just like Hollywood, loves to fail upward. They're never going to admit when they're doing something stupid. They're never going to admit when they're potentially doing something wrong. They're just going to say that all of it is cherry-picked nonsense. So it says the report as published by, or lack of better definition as the group does not provide one on their website, Anti-Woke Research Group, Campaign for Common Sense, and shared exclusively with local news outlet The Telegraph, surveyed the broadcaster's news and drama output to measure just how much their various programs focus on such topics as the country's history of colonialism and gender ideology. In terms of the former, the group found a preoccupation by BBC News about Britain's links to the transatlantic slave trade, with articles about the subject appearing online at a rate of more than one a week in 2023. That is crazy. That is crazy. One article, more than one article a week about slavery, essentially. That's how much they're talking about it over there in good old Britain. They said they also noted that two series, Murder is Easy and Waterloo Road, each had a respective episode wherein their production teams ham-fistedly attempted to tackle the topic, the first having inserted a colonialism allegory into Agatha Christie's original story, and the second featuring its cast of teenage students protesting against their schools being named after historical slave trade. Now, this is nothing new, ladies and gentlemen. We also do it here in the United States. They love talking about this stuff because they want to keep black people in mental chains for as long as humanly possible, because nothing is as dangerous to the white liberal as an actual independent black person. That is probably the most dangerous thing to them. So they need to make sure that they keep people in mental chains for as long as they possibly can. And if they lose those people, they're going to need to make sure they recruit more by constant propaganda and ideologically driven stuff like movies, TV shows, and entertainment as a whole. They make sure that that message is consistently out there. It says, regarding the prominence of the latter, the CCS pointed to a February BBC Radio 4th incident wherein they allowed two activist guests to brand Harry Potter scribe J.K. Rowling as transphobic without any pushback. A June 2023 episode of the long-running British soap opera Casualty, in which characters discussed the topic of top surgery, wherein biologically female transgender individuals undergo a double mastectomy in service of distancing themselves from their original female identity. In recent episodes of Doctor Who, which introduced and featured Donna Noble's transgender child Rose Noble as portrayed by transgender actor Yasmin Finney. Now, of course, I mean, this is topics that are very clear in the United States as well. You know, there is a strong mirror, let's just say, between what the BBC is doing and what our entertainment industry is doing here in the States with Hollywood. It's a very clear mirror. They're all mirroring the exact same talking points. They're all mirroring the exact same bullshit, social justice, fake diversity, equity and inclusion nonsense. They're trying to convince all these young kids to chop off their healthy body parts and totally convince them that nothing wrong is going to happen in the future by doing so. It's totally reversible. All these hormones, everything's reversible. Don't worry about it. If you change your mind, we promise you won't have a debilitating mental illness when you grow up. Yeah, it's all BS, ladies and gentlemen. And people like this, like Yasmin Finney, probably are so far gone that they just go all the way, because at this point, they can't admit that they probably made a mistake and it's way too much work to go back. So they're just going to don the wig. They're going to don the makeup. Hey, I'm a female now. That's assumingly all it takes. So it says, per the CCS, their main issue with the BBC's aforementioned content is that in the producing programs with just this single worldview, the broadcaster is failing to live up to its own editorial policy regarding impartiality, which asserts that when dealing with controversial subjects, we must ensure a wide range of significant views and perspectives are given due to weight and prominence, particularly when the controversy is active and explicitly requires that opinion should be clearly distinguished. Well, you know, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They love to pretend as if they're so virtuous, right? They're so intelligent. They feel like they are the smartest people when they walk into a room. But ultimately, there is no impartiality with the BBC, just like there's no impartiality with most of Hollywood. They all basically subscribe to the same exact cult as everybody else around them. They know that that's what they have to do. They get paid to do so, so they will do so. And only when the money runs dry, only when the actual funding from companies like BlackRock and whatnot runs dry, which it probably never will, that's when you're going to start seeing a change. That's when you're actually going to notice things shifting in the other direction. But so long as that money's coming in, so long as your ability to get funding as a company is required on your ESG scores, that's never going to change. This is never going to change. They're always going to be pushing this nonsense. It says this research reveals that rather than upholding those high standards of impartiality, parts of the BBC continue to peddle a steady diet of woke bias, both through the plot lines of popular dramas, but also in some of its news coverage. A spokesperson for the CCS told The Telegraph, the impartiality plan, unveiled in the wake of a BBC scandal over trust, was supposed to mark a turning point for the corporation. Instead, this research reveals that the same old woke worldview is still very much in operation. 2 years ago, the BBC set itself very high standards to help restore viewers' trust. It has singularly failed to meet those standards. Yeah, I'm not surprised. They're going to keep failing because that's just what they do. The BBC, like I said earlier, just like Hollywood, they sure as hell, they love failing upward, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to consistently push nonsense like race-swapped Isaac Newton. They're going to consistently push transgender characters. They want to destroy white male cis characters, as they like to put it, simply because they assume the pronouns of a freaking furry alien. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's how far the BBC has gone. So I have no faith that the BBC is ever going to change. I don't know why we're even trying to pretend and have this discussion as if they're going to. I think it's great that you have independent researchers going against the BBC. You know, obviously you need to verify their findings and go through their information, but I wholeheartedly agree and understand that the BBC is going to be extremely woke. That's just what they are. That's what they're going to continue to be, and there is going to be no changing it as of right now. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.